please let the commission know who else is in the meeting?
Yes, we have Director Pack, Janelle Simmons, Kathy Ortega, Kris Skaro, Matt Shelby, Mike Wells, Nate Carter, and Ty Calandrello.
Thank you. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the written comments that were received were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk please share the public comments that were received for the record?
The following public comment was received from Kitty Martz, a person in long-term gambling recovery. Director Pack and honorable commissioners, your plans to launch e-instant platform are appalling. You are going to cause great harm to vulnerable Oregonians. For those who don't know what e-instant is, it involves purchasing virtual scratch-it tickets that are played digitally on your handheld device or computer. You can buy a large quantity and then set the device to autoplay while you disengage and watch your computer reveal visual and audio effects on each of the quote-unquote scratch-it tickets. This sounds like a highly addictive platform and not unlike a Vegas-style slot machine. What prevalence studies have been done to practice the precautionary principle before you release this? Are your VLT vendors concerned this will capture some of their market share? What impartial problem gambling experts were consulted? Advocacy groups, legislators, the House Business and Labor Committee? Please make the answers to these questions public. And that ends the public comment.
Thanks, Alisa. Excuse me. With that, we'll move to our commissioner communications. I'm going to open this up if any of the commissioners have any comments or things they would like to share at this time. I don't have anything other than I am certainly I'm sure with the rest of you, feel bad that our COVID cases are rising. I know that the director and your team are looking at what impacts this will have going forward, and to the extent any of the comments today are about that, let us know. But anyway, with that, Barry, maybe we can move to your report, the director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a good segue, and my comments were going to start by recognizing that by now we know not to assume anything as it relates to COVID-19, except that our operating environment is dynamic. As you know, earlier this month, Governor Brown announced several new measures the state is taking to help battle the highly contagious Delta variant that now makes up roughly 97% of all COVID-19 cases in Oregon. Two of those measures, the return of indoor masking and a new requirement for all state executive branch workers to be vaccinated, have a direct impact on our operations. A third, outdoor mask requirements that goes into effect tomorrow, impacts us all in our day-to-day lives. Given the news this week that the FDA has fully approved a COVID-19 vaccine, all employees of lottery and any other executive branch agency must be vaccinated by October 18th, with limited medical and religious exemptions. This new requirement is a condition of employment with the state, and we are working with staff right now to answer questions, develop implementation processes, and provide resources that can help. A new Monday Powerball drawing debuted this week, joining the current lineup of Powerball drawings held every Wednesday and Saturday at 7:59 p.m. Pacific. All 48 Powerball lotteries are now selling tickets for the Monday night drawings. Adding a third drawing does not change the Powerball game odds or cash prizes, but it does give players another chance to dream big. More importantly, more than half of all proceeds from the sale of Powerball tickets sold in Oregon stay in Oregon, benefiting programs Oregonians value. Quick update on Scoreboard. As you know, the vendor we use to power the Oregon Lottery Scoreboard was purchased by DraftKings. This presents us with the opportunity to transition over to their sports betting platform, an exciting proposition for our players. Contract negotiations are underway, and we have an approval request later on in today's agenda for that award. On the sales front, overall, we are up more than 36% over last year. So far this fiscal year, 30 million plus weeks are the norm, Video lottery continued its strong performance this month, up nearly 48% over fiscal year 21. Contributing factors include strong consumer spending, the recent launch of 3 new video lottery games, and the deployment of new game terminals, the Crystal Duel and the Helix Plus. Keno's continues to largely outperform last year's levels, coming in at more than 12% above fiscal year 21. Scratchits continue to see robust performance as well, nearly 5% above last year. Scoreboard saw more than 44,000 wagers on the Olympics between July 23rd and August 8th, nearly 20% of all sports betting activity during the period. Fiscal year to date, Scoreboard has seen comparable levels of wagering activity to that of last summer. However, gross gaming revenue, due to favorable margins, exceeds last year's performance by more than 55%. There were no major jackpot levels for Megabucks, Powerball, or Mega Millions over the past month. Currently, though, both Powerball and Mega Millions are climbing toward a $300 million jackpot level. Great timing for the Powerball debut of the new Monday drawing this week. Finally, a few winner stories. McMinnville Man is the latest Oregon's Game Megabucks jackpot winner, taking home a $5.8 million jackpot. Rick Crone matched all 6 numbers for the Monday, July 26th drawing. Quote, "I've been playing these numbers for about a year," Crone said. "They are a combination of birthdays and anniversaries." Crone said he was a longtime player who faithfully buys a ticket for each drawing every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. However, the week he won, he had forgotten to get a ticket. Quote, "Over the weekend, I had forgotten to get the Saturday ticket, and we were driving by the 7-Eleven near Linfield, and we stopped to get one," he said. "I'm glad I did." Crone took the prize as a 30-year annuity to be paid annually and said the couple were still planning on what to do with the prize. "My wife, Leslie, said she is flying first class from now on. That's really the only thing we've decided on," he said. A Keno winner, Teresa Lewis. Teresa said she does not play Keno very often, but she and her husband were at the Hangout Sports Bar and Grill in Gresham and decided to play. Quote, "The ticket was sitting on the table and my husband said we should check the Keno ticket," said Teresa. "Since we have the lottery app on our phone, he scanned it and the screen showed it was a big winner." Teresa took the ticket up to the bar to have the server check it. Quote, "She scanned the ticket and said, 'First thing you need to do is sign this ticket because it's a big one.'" Teresa won $75,600 on Keno. And finally, William B. of Portland won the top prize of $100,000 playing the $100,000 money match. William rarely plays lottery games, but when he stopped into a 7-Eleven in Milwaukee to get something to drink, he noticed the $100,000 money match scratch it in the ticket dispenser was ticket number 10 for the $10 ticket. With karma seemingly on his side, he scratched the ticket, the one and only one he purchased that day, and it looked like a winner. To help him verify his good fortune, William went home, downloaded the lottery app, and scanned his ticket, and it was a top prize winner. William claimed his prize at the lottery office in Salem on August 16th. And that concludes my report for this month, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the commission regarding the director's report before we move on? Barry, just one that at some point, I'm not assuming you have that information today, but with the COVID cases going up and with the new protocols coming down, at some point, I'm assuming your team is going to look at whether or not, we've really been coming back strong, I think, in the business, and whether or not this will have any fiscal impact going forward. If not today, I'm assuming maybe next month that you'll have some more information about that.
We can certainly report back on that next month. We aren't seeing an impact yet, and so we'll just keep monitoring.
That's great. Thank you. With that, let's go to the next agenda item, the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on July 21st, 2021 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. Let's go to the financial report. Kathy, the financial statements for fiscal year in June.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Saathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery, and we have two statements to approve this month. The first one is the operating statement for the month of June and for the fiscal year end. I presented this statement to you last month in draft form. I am coming back for final approval. There are a couple of things to note about approving the statements this month. We have recorded all of the entries that we have come across for this year end, except for the one entry that will come to us sometime, which is the securities lending entries that need to be pushed down from the treasurer onto our books. They are things that Treasury does on our behalf in Lottery's name, but we don't have any operational impact on them. So I'm going to ask for approval of the statements today without those entries, and I won't come back and report on those. The impact of those are just within the balance sheet. So it has no impact on any of our contingency or reserves or anything like that. So having said that, I'd like to have you go to the operating statement for the month of June. We have net revenue of $112.1 million on a budget of $115.9, $3.9 million under budget. We have some timing differences really on game vendor charges and sales support and interest expense for the month. These are just things coming in. You'll see that those variances are positive on the year to date. Under salaries, benefits, and wages, I believe Director Pack reported out to you one of the PERS entries that we received that we booked, and it was fairly sizable. And so we've got that on the books now. Moving on, net profit of 59.5 on a budget of 73.9. We were $14.4 million unfavorable on for the month. But going on to the year to date, for the full year, we have the picture of the year, which is net revenue of $1,036 million on a budget of $1,028 million, or 7.5, almost $7.6 million favorable. And again, we have the same issues going through on the salaries, benefits, and wages, and resulting in a year-end net profit of $632.4 million on a budget of $623.3 million, or $9.1 million favorable for the year. I have the schedule of services and supplies for you for the month and the year to date, and just reminding everyone that the retailer network recovery negative variance was attributable to the charges that we absorbed for the network while the retailers were shut down. And we have a slight difference in facilities maintenance that I think was really largely attributable to some of the work that we had to do for the storm and a couple of other facilities issues that we had. I also have the balance sheet for you as of June 30th. And I have the final capital outlay report for you, which happens to be an eye chart, but the results for the end of the year are on a budget of 75.6 million. We spent 46.3, almost 46.4 million, the bulk of which was the Aurora implementation. And we had underspent by 29.3 million, much of which is moving into fiscal 20, the next fiscal year. We're in 22. It's in this year's budget. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the June and year-end report.
Questions or comments from the commission? Kathy, I have just a couple, and I apologize because this is my I do recall us talking about the PERS adjustment. I'm trying to recall what was the root cause. We estimated incorrectly, but it had to do with salary changes, or did it have to do with, can you remind me what was the root cause of the need for the PERS adjustment?
Well, to answer your question, it's a good question, Chair Saathoff. It is an entry that comes to us once a year from PERS, and we do attempt to estimate it. We estimate it based on past trends. And this year it was much larger. And we are still trying to talk to the people over at PERS and the state accounting offices to get a better handle on exactly why that was so large this year. So I'm going to have to report back out when I know a little bit more.
Okay, that's fine. I just couldn't remember the whole conversation. I just remember you all talking about it. On the capital outlay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. Looked to me like a significant underspend was in the gaming products and product portfolio. Those were just set timing, and we just need to roll that spend to the next year, and that's why most of the 29 is rolling. Were there other things?
We just coming out of a year where we had COVID and shutdowns, we delayed some of these procurements, and they are rolling into next year, and we are coming back to you with a plan on how that money is going to be spent.
Okay, great. I didn't have any other questions about the June or fiscal year. If I don't hear anyone else, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 financial statements, including the month of June?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery's year-end financial statements for fiscal year 21, which ended June 30th, 2021, be approved for the record as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Okay, Kathy, July.
Can everyone hear me?
You just cut out for a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so the next statement that we have is the first month of fiscal 22, which is the month and year to date, July. We had net revenue for the month of 124.2 on a budget of 105.9, almost 106 million, $18.2 million favorable to budget. And when we have a favorable variance, we are going to have negative variances in commissions. But in addition to the favorable revenue variances, the first month of the year is a little bit tricky on where retailers are coming in the tiers. And we had a similar pattern last year. And by the end of the year, this will even itself out. The only other, there really were not very many notable spending variances this month. Mostly just timing differences, spreading the budget over 12 months and only having 1 month of activity. We have net profit of 78.4 million on a budget of 63.7, $14.7 million favorable. And that really covers the P&L for the profit and loss or operating statement for the month and the year to date, since they're the same. I have the schedule of services and supplies and the balance sheet for you there to take a look at, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about these statements as well.
Questions or comments for the commission? Kathy, the one area on the indirect expenses, I'm not worried about it. I just don't quite understand what it is. It's public information that looks like we greatly overspent. What is that? What did we do there?
I think it's just the timing of one of the pieces of output that we have for that particular line compared to a budget that's spread out over 12 months. I think it's just really, I hate to say it, but it's a timing issue.
Well, we needed that in this meeting, so I appreciate that. And and I have one other question, and I apologize. I should have asked this before we approve the other. It doesn't change the approval. But when you said that the securities lending entries are not yet in the statements, does that mean when we adopted those statements, they're sort of subject to adding that? You said you won't need to bring
Yes.
it back to us, just as a protocol. I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, so
They are not in there. And I'm asking for final approval. I wasn't going to bring them back because they're just an entry that comes from Treasury based on Treasury related activities. This lottery does not influence or impact that. It's something Treasury does on their own, but because they use its activities on, on behalf of lottery to get passed down and pushed into our statements for auditing purposes.
yeah, I don't have any questions about what they're doing. It was more protocol, and we've adopted it, but it's not quite complete. So it's just subject to your addition to that. So, okay,
Yes,
great.
correct.
Right.
And actually, to Saathoff, just to be clear, we've done that in the past years because those entries are always late.
Oh, okay. I didn't recall that, but thank you. Okay, unless there are questions or comments on the monthly financials from anyone else on the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended July 31st, 2021 be approved for the record as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate all the responses to my questions.
No problem, anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll move to the next agenda item, the major procurement with DraftKings. And I guess that's Barry, that's going to be you telling us about that,
Yeah.
talking to us. Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you'll recall, and as I mentioned, DraftKings purchased SB Tech a little over a year or so ago, and we have been in conversations with them ever since about the possibility of moving Scoreboard off of the older SB Tech platform and onto the standard DraftKings platform. There are a number of business benefits to the lottery in terms of simplifying some of the structures, and there are player benefits as the experience will be improved on the new platform. We have been working through legal issues and are in contract negotiations. The reason I'm bringing this to you today is one of the factors that we're going to have to work on soon is how to fit a transition from one platform to the other while still heading into a busy season of professional sports, both NFL and NBA coming up here really soon. And so we want to make sure that we're able to seize the right window when we have enough information to know what it's going to take and how long it's going to take to make that transition work. And so I am coming to you today to ask for approval to award the contract when we've worked out all of the details. In your materials today, it's just an updated memo on the due diligence that we completed when DraftKings purchased SB Tech, and that due diligence will be updated as we move through the contracting process. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, Barry, I have a question. As we move forward with the transition to DraftKings, is it going to be any kind of disruption in play for our players, or is that going to be pretty seamless, or how do you picture that happening?
We're going to try to make it as seamless as possible with as few steps for a player to make a transition. But they are actually, if they don't already have a DraftKings account, they're going to have to create a new account when we do make the transition. But other than that, it should be relatively seamless.
Okay, so we're not going to see any loss of revenue out of being out of the game for a period of time?
I would not expect a significant drop. We may see some players who choose not to make that transition, but I think that will probably be offset by the improved customer experience and additional wagering options that the DraftKings platform will offer. The DraftKings platform is a lot more familiar to regular US sports bettors. The SB Tech platform was more of a European design.
Great, thank you.
It's interesting that they have to re-register. DraftKings purchased SB Tech, right?
Yes, but it's, I don't know if, I don't have the right people on the team to be able to explain this better, but it is about just physically moving the bank accounts and reestablishing banking, I think, in the new platform. It's not something that can just get transported over because of PII and things like that, I believe.
Okay, they've done this before, so I'm thinking of Julie's questions and that to make sure that we don't have a really horrendous problem and a bad experience where we lose players or we lose revenue. Have they done this kind of transition before? So we know what
I
we know
am
how
not
to do it.
sure, Madam Chair. This is somewhat unusual because they acquired an existing company as opposed to starting new. But we are certainly doing all of the due diligence that is necessary to ensure a smooth transition, at least as much as we can.
Yeah, well, that's something you might want to ask them and how they're going to mitigate that if a problem happens. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
And Barry,
Other questions?
I noted in about DraftKings that there was an investigation that was done like in all normal practices. Was that something that was done by the state police or was that done internally by someone with lottery?
Yeah, that was done by the state police who are assigned to lottery.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the request to enter into a major procurement?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission pursuant to ORS 461.440 and OAR 177-038-00203 approve the contract award to DraftKings Inc. to offer managed services supporting sports betting in Oregon.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Saathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move to rulemaking and Kris Skaro.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Saathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kris Skaro, Rules and Policy Analyst for the Lottery. I have two quick rulemaking items for you this afternoon. First, you may recall back in the summer of 2020, we adopted a rule that explained how the lottery would manage compliance with public health protocols that specifically applied to video lottery terminals. So this rule was referring to the protocols issued by the Oregon Health Authority that were specific to VLTs, like the spacing requirements, cleaning protocols, limits on hours of operation, and eventually physical barriers between terminals. We did suspend the rule on June 30th in response to the executive order lifting most public health restrictions, including those that apply to video lottery terminals. The temporary suspension is effective through the end of the year, but we'd like to get the permanent rulemaking process started so that we have the option to permanently repeal the rule. As you mentioned, Chair Saathoff, there's a lot of uncertainty with the public health situation, but at this time, there are no public health restrictions that apply specifically to video lottery terminals, so we think the rule's confusing to have on the books. If needed, we can manage compliance using our temporary rulemaking authority or a general authority under the retailer contract. So we'd like to just send notice out and take public comment, and I would report back to you on this in October. More information, the meeting materials for those who are interested. And that is all I have on that one. But if you want to ask any questions or comments before I move to the next one.
Questions or comments from the commission? Okay, hearing none. Kris, I do think you guys think that given we don't really know what's going on right now, you think you've got plenty of authority to just act in an appropriate way, even without the temporary rule, or you can quickly get the temporary rule in place if you need it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think starting the rulemaking process gives us more options as we get closer to the end of the year. And we can see where things are at. Otherwise, without starting, the temporal would kind of spring back into life, which I think would be confusing for our retailers. And so we'd like to just get things moving and understand we need to be nimble in the coming months.
It makes sense. Thank you.
And
Okay.
if I may, Madam Chair, before we move on, just on this point about sort of uncertainty on the public health crisis, we learned a lot about this virus throughout the course of the pandemic. So if we were to see restrictions in place, I think those restrictions might be different than they were originally put into place. So keeping them on the books doesn't really help us if they're going to be different, right? We're going to want to replace them quickly with whatever's needed at that time.
Makes sense. I recall now you mentioning that before. Thank you, Barry. Okay, Kris.
Okay, thank you. Just one more quick item. So you may recall at the last commission meeting, you all approved a rule change to convert our weekly minimum sales requirement for video lottery into the dollars played format that is consistent with our current commission structure and our retailer contract. Unfortunately, when I entered the rule text into the Secretary of State database, I entered the wrong dollar amount. So just to clarify for the record, we have always intended to change the minimum amount to $2,667 played per week. This is the amount that we communicated with to retailers, and it's the amount that's the direct conversion from our previous sales floor. But the amount I entered was $2,776, so slightly higher than we intended. So we did immediately fix the rules, so the rules fixed going forward. But unfortunately, we do need to go back through the rulemaking process just to avoid any future uncertainty about the validity of the rule. So I do apologize for the additional work, but good lesson learned for me to be more careful. So we would send notice out on this one, take public comment, and also I would report back in October. And more information in the meeting materials for those who are interested, and happy to take questions on either of those, but otherwise that's all I have on the rulemaking front this afternoon.
Thanks, Kris. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
You bet. So I'll ask if there's any other business from the commission or Director Pack that you'd like to raise at this time. Hearing no other business, this concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on Friday, September 24th. Thank you all for attending today's meeting, and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Nice job.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Marty, have a great vacation.
You too. Thanks, Alisa. Thanks for letting me tell you all about it.
No problem. I can't wait to hear about it next month.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.